Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We called this lovely study session because there is a request from the administration, from the mayor and the staff for a 1.7 million, some say 1.5. We'll meet in the middle, we'll call it 1.6. Basically a 1.6, I call it a deficit. I know we went in and we gave over a balanced budget. Believe it or not, we gave a surplus, I think, of like maybe $100,000. Now the administration is coming back to us and saying, you know, we need another $1.6 million. And I know that there's been a lot of bleeding, and then it became hemorrhaging. I've had many conversations with Michelle, but I want to hear from the directors. And I want you guys to know that it's kind of like, it's no different than when you're going to Target. You have $200 in your pocket, and you want to buy something for $250. You put it on your credit card. You put this $200, but you're still $50 short. My father always taught me a rule. If you don't have it, don't buy it. If you can't buy it cash, don't use it on your card. Probably why I don't have any credit card debt. But really, this is a very severe and very serious concern of mine. There are some questions that I do have for Michelle and I do have for Shannon. But what I would like to first hear from, I actually emailed the mayor and I asked him to join us today. This isn't about like a bickering and pointing fingers. We really need to move our city forward. Our city right now is looking in ways where everybody is looking at us and saying, what's going on in Dearborn Heights? At one point, Dearborn Heights was the place, when you moved to Dearborn Heights, it was a luxury. It was like, wow, you made it. You live in Dearborn Heights. That's not become, the case lately. But we are going to do whatever it takes to make it right. I'm disappointed that the mayor's not here, but I know the chief of staff is here. So I would like you to start us off about why we are coming about this $1.7 million, why there was an overspent over here from almost every single department. And then I will listen to some of the directors as well, which I'm going to have some questions for as well. I know I spoke to some of the directors here. I believe I spoke with the police chief. I spoke with the fire chief. I spoke with Mr. Watland. I spoke with Mr. Dancy a little bit. But I wasn't able to speak with everybody, so please forgive me. Also, but before we start, I am sorry. I know today is, Ash Wednesday, first day of Lent. I'm sorry that this meeting was held on Wednesday. I truly did not know. That falls on me. I say that I pray for everybody that for these next 30 days or from now until Easter, I believe, that, we remember to self-discipline, spread love, care, and really appreciate each other. At the end of the day, we're all human. This isn't about who's right and who's wrong. It's about really respecting and showing a little bit of love and some emotions to each other, and that's okay. This here today, this $1.7 million, this isn't about pointing the finger at the administration. I don't want anybody to take that out. But we have to make sure that our residents understand what is taking place. And we have to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We're in a very, very bad position. Nobody's publicly saying it. I'm telling you it right now. The city is in very, very bad shape. You guys are the directors, are in charge of your departments. I expect you guys to hold everybody accountable. I know sometimes things happen, but we can't do that to our residents. You guys are in roles of leadership. So Mariana, I'm going to go ahead and continue with you.
Good afternoon, Council Chair.
Good afternoon.
So I just have a short statement to say with regards to a lot of these. I wouldn't call them overspending per se. A lot of these are pre-approved motions that were associated with the request to update the budget. So as we know, the budget is a living document. There are amendments that happen consistently in every community where amendments are necessary. If you see the notes under each category, it explains whether or not this was because of a pre-approved motion or not. I guess the area that is an overexpenditure is the overtime, which is an issue in our community. And we knew that when we came in last year's budget, where we were requesting for additional funding for overtime because of the lack of staffing that we have in the fire and the police department in particular. And this is showing that understaffing continued, thus the overtime increased. The departments for police and fire are here and they can speak more on how their staffing is working. I know we've made tremendous progress in hiring fire department officers, so this is going to start showing a lower trend moving forward as this firefighters become full-time employees. So that's pretty much what I have to say. If there are specific questions to any of the categories or the motions that are presented here, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I got a quick question for you.
Yep.
My first question is, 3 years ago, we sat here, I listened to Chief Brogan, I listened to it, the media heard it, that he needed to hire more firefighters, and that there were, when the former HR director was here, there was, 2 years ago, there was 5 or 6 in the queue. What took 3 years for us to hire more firefighters? Because if we didn't wait 3 years, we would have never had this issue.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you, I'm not blaming the fire department. I'm not blaming the administration, but somebody dropped the ball. And we kicked the can down the road too long,
Okay.
which pushed us in this position now.
All right, so from the experience that I have faced in the city, you're 100% correct. There was understaffing in every department when we first came into the organization for multiple years. I believe the fire department hadn't been fully staffed in over 12 years, if not more. He has the exact numbers for that. So when the administration came on board to the city and the council as well, there was an issue in the organization where everybody was being underpaid. So all of the salaries were way below the wages that were necessary and comparable to our neighbor cities. And that was why we weren't able to hire up, right? So then we went into the contract negotiations with every single union, and we created a salary
Baseline.
allocation for a baseline to be comparable with other communities. So that was the big increase that we saw in all of our union contracts, which is what you're facing right now. It's the salary increases that we provided are reflected in what our budget is looking like nowadays. Because yes, we now have more comparable salaries for all of our employees. Yes, we are now able to hire the firefighters that we need. Part of the reason it took so long is because it took a while to negotiate. We would like to give everybody more salary increases, but again, we did the best that we could at the time with the budget that we have available. It is starting to show the proof that that was the right move, because we are starting to hire up and we don't have as much need for the overtime in the fire department. We're still struggling with DPW employees and finding employees that want to work in that area. I don't believe that's because of the salaries right now, but just because of the nature of the work and there being a greater need than there are employees for that particular field. But again, we did the salary increases in order to hire up. It is showing now. Our process for hiring is slow. It's a slow process. Act 78 takes a long time. And luckily, we've, again, moved forward with it. And we have a lot of employees now. And there's a lot of them in the line that want to come here and work for us, which is what the council requested when we were doing the negotiations. That's what we have now. Employees do want to come and work for us. So it's just a change in how we're doing business.
While we're on contracts, and I don't want to take too much away from this here, if that's okay with this body. You're right, we're starting to feel the wrath of these contracts. Did we do like a cost analysis to see if the city can afford this? Or because you're saying we're seeing this deficit of $1.7 million because of that went up. But our first year in office, before we gave those, we were still in a deficit of 1.9, and then we saw one of 2.2, and now then we tried to get another one for, almost 2.7, then 1.9. Now we're seeing 1.7. So the trending, regardless, we've always seen a trend of having a deficit in the budget somewhere. So I don't believe it all sits there. And I think the overtime was the same thing as it was last year. If anything, we took $75,000 and $50,000 away. Like, it wasn't anything dramatic that was removed out of the police. And, I know everybody liked to say at one point the council was defunding the police. That's not true. All we said was follow the proper
I can
policy
show you what we
procedure.
presented on April 1st versus what was approved at the end of June.
You guys gave us something that wasn't realistic. You didn't have the money for it.
Again, it wasn't realistic, but it was consistent with the trend, and this continues to be consistent with that trend.
So, okay, but then the trend has nothing to do with hiring and firing, because 3 years ago, if we were still fully staffed, we still had a deficit. So I can't say that was because of the shortage. It's the overspending. We say here with Mr. Saputo, I don't want to make this a debate, but we say here with Mr. Saputo, we say here with Michelle, we say here with almost every comptroller, and they've always said we're overspending. So I don't want I can't say it's the police and fire's fault. But while we're talking about contracts, I've had a conversation with some police officers, and some of them tell me we have a tentative agreement to get a 5% increase over the next 3 years, every year, 5%, 5%, 5%. Can the city afford that? If you're telling me right now what we have, we can't, And why would the city go into a negotiation and find a tentative agreement, which hasn't been brought to the council yet? Which I don't know, this could be, he said, she said, but I read some documents saying that the administration is saying we can afford a 15% increase for the patrol officers. But you're telling me right now, like, where are we getting the money from?
I was not involved in the negotiations, so I know that the comptroller is currently looking into those numbers. It's the first time that she's looking at them, so.
I talked to her about it, I think like a week ago, so I know I've been waiting on those numbers.
Council Chair.
Hang on one second, Councilman. I just want to make sure, like, if this is without a 5% increase for the next 3 years, so without a 50% increase over 3 years, we really have to make sure that we're doing our numbers the right way. We can't just say, we're gonna give everybody what they want, and then when it comes time to paying everything, the city's looking around. And I'm not saying, I'm not putting the pressure on you, but this is reality. All of us need to come together to figure out a solution.
I agree.
The solution isn't to say, well, we'll pray that grants come in, and the grants don't end up coming in.
No.
Go ahead, Councilman.
So a couple questions. One is, again, back to the police contract. Like, again, we don't do any analysis or studies before we enter into a contract or agreement.
She said she wasn't in it.
I know, but no, I'm asking. Isn't there studies done? I mean, do we just go in there and just say, hey, we're gonna give you a raise because we can say we can give you a raise?
It depends on what is being negotiated from what I am aware of, right? Sometimes there are studies, sometimes there are not. Typically, the Comptroller's Department is always involved in that, and they do calculations internally to see those numbers. This wasn't the case because Shannon wasn't here, so.
Well, why wasn't Plant Moran involved?
I don't believe Plant Moran has ever been brought up for negotiations with the unions.
I know, but to look at the numbers, do we not say, hey, this is what, because it's a state law that says you cannot negotiate with a union without giving them something you can afford. So if you're negotiating with something that you cannot afford, and you're just saying, well, go ahead, because what ends up happening is, well, the council, you guys approved it.
I refer that question to the police department and the individuals that were there when that was negotiated.
Well,
And I know that they're getting ready to present that to council, so perhaps this is a conversation that we can have when that does come to council. At this moment, that's not one of the agenda items per
It's
se.
going to be. It's going to eventually have to become, and we're talking
Correct.
about the money right now.
Yes, it's going to be when they present the tentative agreement to you, and it's also going to come up when we present the budget next month. So I'm just saying, I don't have the answers right now. Perhaps we can wait until that time, and the comptroller and everybody else is ready to answer questions with regards to this new agreement.
Okay. Then I have a couple of questions for Michelle, and if Shannon, you can come up, you can stay up. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can I ask these questions?
No, go ahead. I'll talk after.
Okay. Can you unmute Michelle? Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing? How you doing, Michelle?
I am well.
Awesome. Michelle, were you able to take a look at that contract? I know it was emailed to you, and I will CC'd on there with you.
Yes, I did. I looked at it. The way it was worded, it was difficult to figure out the exact dollar amount. So Shannon is helping to go through those numbers to get an exact dollar figure
Okay.
to see what it's going to cost the city.
Let's stay on top of that for me, please. Thank you. Thanks, Shannon.
Which account we're talking about, though?
This is about a contract that was emailed to them. Shannon, can you tell me, or Michelle, if you're on here too, or you or Shannon, how much money did we say we were gonna bring in at, revenue? Did we assume, because everything is trending, we were gonna bring in X amount. And when we passed the budget at 60 million, we assumed revenue was gonna come in at an X number. Can you give me that X number? Not what we have, what actually came in, but what we anticipated that was gonna come in.
I can look it up.
If you want me, I can tell you it.
Oh, sure.
54,515,776. You know what we ended up coming in? 49,532,763. So we're $5 million short of what we anticipated to come in when we passed that budget. And everybody keeps asking, where did this $5 million, how was this $5 million from the fund balance come out of? It was because we underestimated. We overpromised and underdelivered. Now we're also $1.7 million coming before us and asking us for this money. Guys, that's $7 million from the fund balance that we're asking to use. This isn't just about, a 1.7, $1.7 million that we're saying. Nobody's talking about the fact that only $49 million came in when we anticipated 54 million was gonna come in. So that article that came out against the city, that we said it was $16,000 because we made a mistake. No, they were talking about this. This is what they were talking about. Can you tell me if these numbers are correct?
That was before I was here. I'm not familiar with that budget or.
Michelle, can you tell me if this is correct?
So your numbers, yes, they are correct. If you're looking at the budget to actual statement, the article that you're referencing, the state did contact the city because of the small deficit in the MIDC fund. The article was also elaborating on some other things, but that wasn't the main issue, if that makes sense.
Well, if you
But
go,
yes,
if
the
you,
revenues were revenues did come in under the budgeted amounts.
I just want you to know, if you go on the state website, we have a notice of intent to withhold state payments. We have a request to improve of delinquencies. We have another denial thing from the state. We have retirees system of annual report notice of delinquency. What is going on? Like, there's a lot of, and these are from like February 4th of 2025. There's a lot of information.
They've all been submitted, the corrective action plan and the,
The council should know this. People need to know what's happening in the city, what's going on with our finances. I know, me and Michelle and Brian had a conversation, but these numbers were never given to us. This is through our own digging, our own research. These are pretty alarming, Michelle.
I'm Shannon.
I'm sorry, Shannon and Michelle.
It's okay. She can be me.
Awesome. You guys are one.
Absolutely, we're on the same page.
So-
I do want to say, though, those notices that you're referring to, those are common when you get an extension, and they all have been addressed.
Okay,
So-
and that's good to know. What about the $54 million that we anticipated, while 49 million only came in?
So,
Did we take that from the
Some
fund
of that-
balance?
yeah, so, yes.
So
we
did that come before council to get approved? Did anybody tell us that this was happening? That $5 million was being spent and nobody thought to say, let me call the fiduciaries to the city, these 7 council members, and say, hey, guys, we under budgeted. We thought we were gonna get $54 million. And really, I commend Councilman Saab on some of these things. He was, early on, was like, remove this, remove this, remove that. If we don't have the money, don't say we're gonna have it. But what happened was we approved the budget with the 54 million. And so you didn't feel like you needed to come before us and say, hey, we're gonna take this out of the fund balance because they already approved it. That's not being transparent.
Sorry, I'm a little confused about which budget you're talking about, but I just wanted to point out that a lot of the information with regards to the audit findings are supposed to be presented to council. We're waiting on a date to have the auditors come and present it to the council members.
I think that some of the information is here. We're $5 million used from fund balance, which wasn't approved by the council. That never came before us, Mariana.
So if you're referring to last year's budget, the budget amendments did come to council, council didn't approve them. So
You just took-
it did come,
No.
yes.
Can you look that up for us, Madam Clerk? Thank you. I mean, I could tell you if a $5 million amendment came in, we would have known.
I don't know if it was 5 million, but like the budget amendment did come.
I don't remember anyone.
I don't remember, I don't think I remember coming in
This is the
for
first time I see
amendment was the
amendment.
ARPA money.
So when we say we're asking for $1.7 million or 1.5 or 1.6 to the directors, this isn't us saying no to $1.7 million or no to overtime. This is us saying no to $7 million. That's the real number. The real number is 5 plus 1.7. 6.7. We have a job here that we promised to be fiscally responsible. Like, it's on you guys to hold those directors and those positions accountable, and it's unfair. But the tough decisions doesn't come before, it's not the council's fault. Tough decision needs to be done by the mayor and the administration. You guys have to make those tough decisions. We do need overtime for police and fire. We do need the overtime for DPW. I agree. Because the second you don't, a water main break's gonna give, if DPW department can't have somebody there with overtime and you have a water main break, you're gonna have to wait till the next morning at 7 AM because they all clock out at 3:30. Because we have no room for overtime? It's not an answer. But I just want us to, when we're saying a number, let's give an honest number. Michelle, can you give me, aside from the 1.7 million, what is the actual number that's coming before us? Because it's not 1.7. My calculation tells me we're short 5 million plus the 1.7.
So Shannon has the number that's coming from fund balance, but I'm not sure what you mean about short 5 million for this fiscal year.
I'm talking from 2024, not 2025. We're talking from
Okay.
June, we're talking from June 30th, when it starts, 2024, to current right now. There's been $5 million used. And plus now we're asking for an additional 1.7.
Plus the budget is not even done yet. We still have about 4 or 5 months to go.
That's what that 1.7 is. But we've already used from the fund balance. What I want to know
This
is,
is just for overtime.
I just want to know from June 30th, when we close our budget, to March 5th of 2025, how much money have we used from fund balance so far?
So just to clarify, the 5 million was last year.
2024, guys.
Year
I get
ending
it.
30/24. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I get it. But I want to know
Okay.
from June 30th, 2024 to March to present day, how much money have we used without the approval of the council from the fund balance?
So that would be the budget amendment amount that Shannon's proposing. That is what we expect to use through the end of the fiscal year.
I get that, through the end of the
Okay,
fiscal
okay.
year.
Yep.
I want to know what we used. Again, hold on, Mariana, 1 second. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, it's only the 1.7. I get it. When we ended 2023 fiscal year, how much money was in the fund balance? Was it 16 million?
17,825.
How much money do we have in the fund balance today, currently, right now?
12,810.
Okay. How did that happen?
Are you asking me or her?
Anybody can answer that. Because we didn't use that when we approved the number. We approved a balanced budget. That's what we did. We went through, the media was here, Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 2, CBS News Detroit, everybody was here. And I believe we sat here with Mariana and everybody, and we approved for 3-4 hours to say, here is a balanced budget. Follow it. How did we use 5 million and now we're asking for 1.7? That's the question that I'm asking.
So I still don't understand where the 5 million.
I'm not blaming anybody. I think the council just deserves to know.
Again, I still don't know where your 5 million is coming from, because that's for last fiscal year, correct?
No,
That's for the current fiscal year?
correct.
June
So-
30th, 2024, the fiscal year ending, so last.
So last fiscal year.
Correct.
Was it
Yes.
17
But we're
million?
still in, when we approved, the last budget we approved was the 2024, guys. Shannon, you were not here.
So
No,
he's
you
talking
have
about
the
fiscal year
2025.
24, 25, basically
Correct.
saying our budget was supposed to be 54 million, but we have 49 million coming in.
Our revenue turned out to be short.
Yep.
So you guys used to fill it, to make up the losses, we
To the
used
fund balance.
our fund balance. But that never came before us. Ever.
Last year?
Sorry.
Like,
No, this year,
Obviously,
24,
I wasn't
25.
here, but I'm assuming that those did come to you through, like, motions, like,
never
requests to
did.
make purchases. It wasn't a single $5 million purchase.
You know, but if we know we came in short, why are we saying, I mean,
But it would say, the motion would say it's coming out of fund balance.
No,
it would say the account number.
It should, but it doesn't. That's what most of these on here are. You guys had already made, sorry, I'm under the weather, so my voice is.
I already heard that.
But, so you guys had approved purchases. Whether or not you knew the money was coming from fund balance or not, I don't know. It wasn't indicated in the request, which is why
why?
we're coming back to you a second time. I agree.
It's like
with you.
straight up highway
I think
robbery.
it should be part, I have made that suggestion multiple times. I'll make it again here. If if the money is coming from fund balance and you need an amendment, that should be part of the request for the purchase. But since that didn't happen, you guys had already approved these
No,
purchases.
we didn't make anything.
You guys approved the purchases.
We were baited, is the word I'm gonna use. We were baited to do it. We're not gonna keep saying, see, like, and I know you're not doing that. So many times they say, oh, you guys approved it, you guys approved it. No, we were baited.
Council Chair,
That's what happened.
I had questions that were, can you do me a favor though, because this meeting is gonna go on, but I want every motion that we approved that came out of fund balance, I want it brought to us and put on the next agenda, on the next meeting.
I mean, I don't know if that's gonna be
It's
added
doable.
that quick, Councilman, but maybe the
If you
following
You can
meeting.
ask the clerk for all the motions there.
Yeah, but I wanna know which ones the money came out of fund balance.
I mean, you can give us a script, you know, to receive, note, and file, but I don't even know how the clerk would be able to do that.
Right, they wouldn't, because that's why we're back here right now, to make the amendments.
Well, we never made an amendment for when we asked for 1.7 million. Why don't you guys just continue to just use the fund balance when it's not even coming to us like you guys been doing for the last year?
I'm just I'm the accountant for the city.
I know.
To be honest
I
with
know.
you, this should be investigated.
I can't speak for the other directors.
Well, I'll be honest with you, knowing that, none of these amendments have my support.
I mean, guys, it's not that it doesn't have the support. How much money do we have in our fund balance currently?
Ed, so the audit hasn't been presented to you yet, but the fund balance is 4.3.
I'm sorry, can you speak into it a little bit?
Yes, so like I said, the audit hasn't been presented to you guys yet, but the fund balance, the unrestricted general fund balance is 4.3 million.
What? 4.3, we're asking for 1.7, we got no money. We just had 17 million ending 2023. And now you're asking for 1.7. You want me to throw a bigger curveball at everybody in here? Wayne County wants their money.
That's coming from the water fund, so that doesn't really.
We're gonna increase water prices on more residents?
That was already allocated in every single one of our audits for the past, I don't even know how many years this has been going on for.
How much did we, are you guys giving them?
It's not we're giving them, we're in a contract with them. The prior administration had made negotiations to get out of that contract and take over the operations of one of the CSOs that's in our community. This was done by Mayor Paletko back in the day. The agreement was to not pay operation and maintenance for those products for the period of time until we found an operator for that facility. In the end, no operator could take the job. So we are in negotiations with them right now to go back to the original contract and pay them what is owed to them, which has been put on a restricted fund every single year by Michelle and our auditors. So that's.
Michelle, can you tell me how much money's in that restricted fund for Wayne County?
It's about 2.8 right now.
Yep, it's $2.8 million.
Well, they want 3.9 from us, so we gotta figure out another million.
Well, we're questioning that number right now. They just gave us all of the invoices because that is what we're questioning.
Yeah,
Like, it
that's-
doesn't match with what our numbers are.
Okay, you know what we should have did though, if we've known that they were doing this? We should have taken the restricted ARPA funds that they gave us, the 24 million, and just said, take your money out and give us what we have, so we know what we actually have. That would have been a smart solution.
So again, like.
That's here nor there.
Just so that you know, this is an old debt. It's
I know.
almost 30 years, so it's always been accounted for in our water rates
30 years?
already. Yes, it's an old, I mean, I don't know if 30 years, but many, many years.
Well, that goes
It's a
with
CSO contract, it's a CSO debt that we've been paying for multiple years. I think one of them expires in 3030 and the other one in 3035. So these aren't new things, and this were already budgeted for and accounted for in our water rates. So it has nothing to do with ARPA. It's not a new expense, it's just an ongoing
I'm just saying that we could have done by just telling them, I'm just giving you an example of what I would have done or what should have just been done, saying, hey, this ARPA money is coming to us, great. Hold off on the 3 million. And I even had that conversation with Wayne County. I said, why don't you guys just do that? I said, we didn't think of that.
So again, the issue has never been whether or not we have the money. We have the money, and we didn't need to use ARPA money for it.
We
We
don't
didn't
have-
hold the money because of not having it. We held the payments
from the
because of the agreement that the prior mayor had about us taking over the operations. So let's not confuse that. We've always had the money. The reason it wasn't getting paid, it was because we were gonna take over the facility.
Well, right now, the more alarming thing here, Mariana, is we had $17 million in our fund balance, and we have $3 million, and now you're asking for 1.7, leaving the city with the fund balance of $1 million. Do you think that, and yourself as the chief of staff, that is the right decision for the city?
The right decision for the city to allocate $1.7 million. I think that there are contracts that have been approved there, and I would suggest that you look at the motions that had already been pre-approved and the work that has already been done with some of this budget amendments. Now, with regards to the things that are forecasted for expenditures, that is up to you to recommend not spending that, and for the administration to figure out how to do that. We do have contractual agreements that are restrictive for us, so it's a much deeper conversation to have. We are all here. I encourage you to ask questions and perhaps go department by department so that you can understand why this came to be and which ones you would be in support of or not. But at least give an opportunity for the directors to speak on why these issues are coming up.
The
Can I
directors.
interrupt for 1 second, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. I just want to clarify, the 4.3 million of fund balance, that's unrestricted. The 12 million that I spoke of just a few moments ago, that's your total fund balance.
Correct.
So that includes the restricted for your pension and your sanitation and other.
Act 345.
restrictions. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you know that, and it didn't go from 12 to 4.
Okay, then can you tell me in 2023, please, Michelle?
Yes.
And actually, I would like it sent to us as well, if that's okay. You don't mind sending it to all the council members so that they have it. I'd like to know what our unrestricted amount of fund balance was in 22 and 23, 24, and then 25. Can you give me those numbers every year, the unrestricted? How much they were so that we know where we are today?
Yep, so unrestricted, I know right now, in 2023, it was 9.5.
Unrestricted was 9.5.
Yes. At the end of 2024, it was 4.3. And we don't do the calculations for the unrestricted until the end of the fiscal year.
So we don't even know if we can give this 1.7 then.
Well, the unrestricted will be that amount that they're requesting will come from the unrestricted.
I understand that, but we don't have the calculation, and we don't know how much we've already spent. We've already spent 4 million this year, 5 million this year, because,
We haven't spent anything this year.
no, guys, we did.
No, we didn't.
We approved the budget, I have it right here. We approved the budget of 54 million, that revenue that was supposed to come in at 54 million.
last year.
That's what I mean. I know we haven't spent any of 2025. I'm talking fiscal year 24, 25,
That's
Okay.
this year.
this year. We came in at 54 million.
No, that is last year. That's
That's
23,
the current
24.
budget.
The current,
That's last year's budget.
So I think that it's also a little bit hard to know how much we have come in because I don't know if we've received all the revenues yet.
we're at 40,
So-
we're at 49 million. And where are we gonna get
If we-
another 5 million right now?
If we calculated today, the unrestricted versus, your revenues versus expenditures, you're front-loaded with your property taxes. Your state shared revenue doesn't come in until towards, it's
Yeah.
every 2 months. So we can't predict with certainty right now because we'd actually be overstating what your fund balance is.
I don't want us to make any predictions. Clearly, we failed when we made these predictions. Like, we did, Michelle. Can you agree to that?
I think that you estimated your budget to be higher last year than
We
it
anticipate.
came in, yes.
And that's okay, guys. Like, listen,
Yes.
we're not gonna point our fingers. A mistake happened. That's okay. Like, we shouldn't be angry and yelling and screaming at each other. We're just saying a mistake happened. We have to all come together to figure out how to fix it. We can't just say, well, hey, approve this $1.7 million. That's not the solution. That's all I'm saying, man. I'm trying to show a little bit of humility here. The truth is, approving $1.7 million on my end is gonna be a very, 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 very hard thing to change my mind on. It's gonna be very hard for me to tell you yes.
And as Shannon did mention, and I know she'll get the detail for you, these items, they will still be charged. It just won't, it'll show up that you're over budget. because you approved the payment, purchase and payment of these contracts. Now, the overtime, that's a whole other story, but just so you know, they've been approved already, the spending will occur. You just won't, you'll show us over budget.
So like we can't even control it, you're telling me.
What you've already approved. Yes.
So then you know what? But this is a living document. Can't we come back and say, we're gonna unapprove these? Because the reality is, Michelle,
I mean, whatever expenditures that we haven't used or we haven't committed to, we should bring them forward and just remove them. Because if they came out of fund balance, it literally was baited, because is Mr. Deeb here today? I don't know if any of the joint projects that we have going with the city, any of that money came out of fund balance.
I'm sorry, which projects are you
Any
referring
of
to?
the joint water, sewage,
So again, I
not
want
the
to,
CSOs.
remind everybody, the water fund is separate than the
not the
general
water
fund.
fund, any contracts that we entered into the city that we said that we gotta pay forward
Yeah,
or something.
absolutely.
Where did that money come from? Was that from fund balance also?
yes, everything.
So again, which contracts are you referring to specifically?
I'm saying in
Because
general.
most of Ali Dib's contracts are either water or highway, which have their own funding sources, and that's where that money comes from typically.
Council Chair, thank you. So just to be clear, is there a way, Madam Clerk, to find exactly all the amendment that you're talking about, if they come from the fund balance or they come from somewhere else? So that,
So I think that the
okay.
best answer that we have for you is it's here in the budget amendments. We are asking you here in the budget amendments to look at what we have. Some of them are coming from fund balance, some of them are being moved from one area to another. So this is what's coming from fund balance. I would recommend that you go one by one. And again, if there are things that haven't been paid yet and you want to remove them, you can rescind those motions. That's absolutely okay. But again, just take a moment to go item by item to understand what's happening and perhaps make a decision based on that, not with such a large number as 1.7, but do it department by department
Oh,
and
no, no, you're
figure
still
out
talking about
what's.
1.7, we're talking about the other stuff that
From last
you
year.
said we approved since June till now.
That's included in that 1.7.
So not everything in the 1.7 has been spent yet. This is our forecast of what we assume is going to be necessary for expenditures moving forward.
I understand.
But there's a
understand.
shortfall also in the
In
budget.
the fund balance.
Correct.
Okay, so where did
was-
that money go?
Where did that money go? Or where did the bill, or where
Said
did
we
the
approved
expenditures
it
come
last
from
year.
to get paid?
That's what I'm saying. I need to see exactly what we approved that
These
came from the
motions-
fund balance.
These purchases were presented to you guys for approval. You guys approved them. Some that you approved
baited.
didn't
I wanna use the word
require
baited.
an amendment, some of them do require an amendment.
No, no, I
The ones that do
understand.
require an amendment are what is listed here.
So most of the stuff that just came from the fund balance with no amendment.
So I have a couple corrections that I'll tell you about, but the actual amount coming from fund balance is 1.4 million. 700 of that is overtime, and about 500 of that is related to items that you guys have already approved.
So where did the rest of the money go that was in fund balance?
It didn't go anywhere. I don't. I
So is
guess-
Michelle lying about the numbers she's
So
given us?
I think he's referring to the change from the fund balance in 2023 to the fund balance in the 2024 fiscal year. Is that correct? So the 9 million to the 4 million?
Correct.
That was payouts for the union contracts. Because remember, you have back pay for police and fire, which we negotiated. So all of those payments that got approved with the union contracts, a big portion of that was back pay. Because unlike TPOAM, those unions do get
Retro.
a year's worth of retro pay or so.
Okay, that makes more sense now. Can we get like
Sorry.
exact
Now
numbers
I'm
for all this stuff?
understanding.
Can we get exact numbers where
What the
each-
retro pays were?
Yeah, like each department, how much do they get?
Yeah, we're gonna
Like
have to
divide the
see-
5, like dissect the 5 million and see exactly where it went.
I don't know if we can pull that from Paycom.
If not now, if you can send it to us.
But yeah, the biggest chunk is union contract negotiation
I
items.
still wanna see it.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
mean, like,
But I just, now I'm understanding what you're saying.
And from now on, anything that comes in front of council for an amendment that's coming out of fund balance, can it be on the amendment that's coming out of fund balance?
I agree with you 100% that, yes.
I mean, I don't know why the mayor's office and administration wouldn't do that.
So again, We agree 100%.
So why don't you
A lot of
change it?
times that motions say where that money's coming from. Some of these, and that's why I want you and encourage you to look into these, some of them are just a matter of putting it in the budget because the money might be coming from a grant source, but it's not currently allocated anywhere in the budget. So we still need approval to put that in the budget. So if you have a few minutes, which we're all already here, again, I encourage you to go through them one by one.
So I have a question for Michelle. So the police department in 2023, 2024, what was their overtime?
I do not have that in front of me, I'm sorry.
Shannon, would you have that?
I think it was
I
about
can get
1.4.
that.
It was like 1.4 million.
1.4 million, I think.
If you give me just like literally.
Sure, and can I know how many officers were
You said
employed?
23,
23.
Yeah, the fiscal year 23, 24.
And can I know how many officers were employed then?
1.7 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and how many
Overtime?
officers?
I do not know.
I know we had less than 40, for sure.
23?
Less than 40.
I have more.
Not 23.
And can I get 22 also? I'm sorry.
Twenty-two, 23 was 1.1 million of overtime.
22, 23? I think we're fully staffed in 22, 23, that's probably why.
22, 23, there was 1.1 million. And then in 24, you said, 23, 24, you said it was 1.7?
Yes.
And then this year about 1.7 as well. Well, 1.6, 1.7.
And how many officers did we have, 22, 23, and 23, 24?
I mean, 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25.
5, yep.
This year, we're asking for 1.2 with this amendment.
Well, you asked for a million, you asked for another 200,000?
We're asking for 400,000.
Okay, you guys asked for almost,
We gave you 914, right? You're talking police?
yeah. So you're asking for 1.4, 1.3.
It's,
No, we're asking for 1.2 total. The
No, because
There
we
was,
gave,
the original budget was 914. There was an amendment to reduce it by 40,000 because you moved, you increased the number of dispatchers, so that salary was removed from overtime. It was moved from overtime to salaries to make up
Correct,
that
what brought that
difference.
forward?
So the amended budget for overtime for this year is 874. We're asking for 400,000 for a total of 1.2.
1.274,
Yes,
so it's almost 1.3.
sure. Well, it's,
If we were to round up or round down, it would go
Yeah.
up
sure.
1.4.
1.3.
1.3.
I mean,
In
till the
fiscal-
budget season and budget ends, it's gonna expand that with.
What about the fire department?
Are you asking for this year?
Yeah.
It's in the information we supplied you. It's,
They're asking for 300,000 and the budget for the overtime was 714, so it's 1,014,000 now with the amendment.
How about DPW?
so for the highway department, that's the only one that's asking for an amendment. Their, again, this is in the packet that you have, their current budget is 100 and they're asking for an additional 155.
Do you have the total amount of the whole DPW department's overtime budget?
Well, there's multiple departments.
That's what I'm saying,
within
all the
DPW,
DPW, that goes under the DPW,
including water.
including water.
Do you want the budgeted amount or what they?
Just the overtime budget, yeah, the overtime budgeted
Budgeted
amount.
amount?
Yeah,
So for building maintenance, they are budgeted for 100,000. DPW highway is budgeted for 100,000. Water admin is budgeted for 521, 724.
Where's our $10 million from ARPA? Where'd it go? You just keep saying that it, it went into losses, revenue losses. Where is it? All I keep seeing is revenue losses.
So I think you saw the increase in the fund balance from 22 to 20, I forgot which exact dates, but the 4 million to the 9 million, that's where the increase
We just
happened.
blew it?
It
We
was
just blew it
paid.
like that?
It was paid in the union
It was
contract.
blown. We just blew it all the way. Like,
It was paid in the union contract payouts.
you look at other cities that had $24 million coming in, like Livonia, Garden City, they got a new state-of-the-art civic center. What do we got to showcase for this community? So embarrassing.
I think it's unfair to compare us to other communities that were in a different situation than us at the time, that had salaries that were much higher than what we had
No,
here.
they're not.
So at the time in 2022, yeah, 100%. If you want to see what the salary rates were back in the day, it was really different.
You're right. It was
So-
60,000 and the city was still thriving.
Okay, well, we were having issues recruiting new employees. So again, we had to make a decision at the time. The council agreed with it.
I mean, do you think our process in the city is bad recruiting? Because that's the only issue we hear, that there's something wrong. Maybe it's not our pay, maybe it's the staff. Have you guys
So
ever thought
again,
of
when
that?
we fixed the pay, the employees came. So
I-
it was,
I truly believe our pay is pretty competitive.
now it is, yes.
But so why can't we
agree.
recruit now?
We have been recruiting.
Where?
In the fire department, they're almost fully
Well, where's the
staffed for
police
the first
department? How
time.
many officers are we still
We're
down?
also working in the police
So how
department.
many people are in the queue? Or how many people are in the academy? Or how many people are
There's
getting
3
hired?
vacancies currently in the police department. So again, I think we're doing pretty well. Like, we have been recruiting for the positions that are available.
That's good. There's certain.
Now, does that mean we need more positions? Yeah, 100%, but we can't afford them. But we are getting the positions filled that we currently need.
How many police officers do we have in 22?
In
I
22,
don't know.
we can look into it.
Honestly, I would FOIA it. And this isn't supposed to be like a,
No, it's just, you're trying to compare budgets, how much manpower we had done compared to manpower we had now, and we're spending 25% more with less people.
Councilman, the thing is, they're asking for 1.7 million and we don't have it. So what's the plan to overcome this obstacle right now? We can't spend that 1.7 million. Did you guys try to sit down with all the directors and see exactly what can be done? So we don't have to spend that money because we don't have it?
Well, like I said, a lot of it is coming from purchases that were already approved, so if
no,
those.
not most of it. You got overtime here. It's not most of it. Most of it is overtime.
I mean, over time, right here, you just got almost between police, fire, and DPW highway, that's,
700.
no more. It's like almost 900,000. So that's almost $1 million just overtime.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why we had to wait till this time to figure out something, or maybe everybody figured, okay, we'll just ask for more money, and money's gonna show up on trees, and we're gonna spend it. But I guess not. Money does not show up on trees, and we don't have the money. And the administration need to sit down with every director and figure out something.
So I can't speak as to the.
No, I'm not
That's the
talking to you, Shannon, but I'm just saying, I'm talking to the administration as a whole.
Right, but for.
I know it's easy to ask for
everything that's
money,
not
but the
overtime-
harder part is to do something about it, to do something about the issues that we're facing. We don't have the 1.7 million, so the mayor needs to sit down with all his directors and figure out something, plain and simple. I mean, I'm talking about on behalf of myself, so I don't know about the other council members.
I totally agree.
Like,
I mean, we can keep sitting here all night, going over and over. We don't have the money. You guys need to figure out something. Instead of just sitting here all night, going over the budget, we don't have the money. There's no $1.7 million. We can't spend more from the fund balance. The administration needs to figure out something.
So related to the purchases that were already approved, are you?
Well, I need to review, and we need to review those again, please, those purchases, to see.
Those all need to be emailed to us.
Anything coming from the fund balance, please email them back to us. We need to see exactly what's been approved from the fund balance, if you don't mind.
If I may, Councilman.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's all the ones that are listed on here?
No, everything. From the past too. Why are we using fund balance? You know how many times I used to.
can't speak to what happened in.
You know, I used to read.
But I'm saying for this year, what we're asking for this time, everything that has been approved, or everything that we're asking for based on what has been approved is listed in here.
I understand that, Michelle.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
Shannon, please forgive me.
Must be the voice today.
Yeah.
55 was the 22 police officers count.
And how much do we currently have?
40.
No, 45? 45? 45, right? 45.
And what was the budget in '22 for the police department?
Yeah.
Correct, that's just patrol.
Correct.
But that's the majority, right? That's without two director positions, correct? That's without two other director positions? Correct.
The total police department budget in '22 was 14,215,947.
14,200,000.
15,947.
How much of that was overtime?
I only have the proposed budget right now. Can you go into it?
What was this past year's budget that we gave the police department?
2022, 21, 22.
It was over 15,
Yeah, 16.
16?
Is it 22?
21, 22. Yeah, that's the budget I'm looking at.
And honest to God, I'm so disappointed. Like, this is like, it's actually hurtful.
The over budget for '22 was $1 million.
How much? 1 million?
1 million.
Okay, and how much was the budget for '24?
874. 874.
No, he's talking about the whole police budget.
Police department.
Oh, please, sorry. 874 is the overtime, if that's your next question.
I'm gonna write it for you so I don't answer it again. Ask it again.
15,889,961.
15,889,000.
Well, it's 16 million then.
16 million, close enough with the overtime ask. So we had 45 officers in '22, you said, correct?
No.
55.
55, I'm sorry, and we
55.
currently have 43?
45.
45, so we're 10
We
officers
don't have
short.
officially 45. We have people that are coming through the academy and loading up. We have budgeted for 45. We don't have 45. So, yeah.
So 42. Okay, so 42.
42 in service, but we're paying for 45.
Correct.
Some people on leave or whatever, right?
No. We have 42 in total.
Yes, there's 3 vacancies.
Yeah, but we budgeted for them, so the money's there for them. If we don't, it goes back in the fund balance.
So there was almost a 1.6 million dollar difference in the budget in 1 year. And now we're coming back asking for 700,000.
Sorry, it's 3-year difference with a union negotiated contract that increased salaries in there.
And you gotta remember something, Councilman, when you're short-staffed, you have more overtime.
I
Correct.
respect that.
It's not respect, that's the
But
reality.
it's reality, I understand, but we're getting back into our staffing and trying to recruit and hire. Like, I'm trying to say that, you guys are saying you're trying. It took 3 years to fill in these vacancies. It's cost the city millions of dollars in overtime when you could have just hired people.
We can't just hire people.
Don't let
like-
people go.
For no reason. Based on accusations.
Again, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to.
I know, I don't want to get into the neck of things let's stick to the study session here. I'm going to ask this one question real quick, Michelle. I'm going to ask this question directed to Mariana. Now that we're kind of like going through the thick of things and we've kind of, we see what's between everything here now. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think the city can afford a 5% increase on these police officers?
Absolutely not.
So you can't afford it?
I do not believe we can.
I think what happened was we negotiated in bad faith.
I wasn't in the negotiation table.
I would like to hear from Chief Brogan first, then I'm going to go to Chief Farhat after. Sorry, Chief Haidar. Please forgive me. Okay. Chief,
All right, good evening, council.
you know how I feel truly about our relationship, but this is
I
bigger
understand.
than all of us right now.
I absolutely understand.
This is bigger than all of us, and I hope now you're kind of understanding why we said no at first to this budget amendment
Sure.
and why we're here today. Like, I know in the past, Mayor Palaco, God rest his soul, had to make tough decisions.
Yep.
Am I right? Didn't you guys all have to take a 10%?
We did.
Yeah,
We did.
everybody did.
Yep.
And this administration is going to have to figure it out because they're no better than what the past administration was. The same way they asked you guys to make tough decisions, well, the administration needs to figure out how they're going to figure out this tough decision making. But I still want to hear why you feel like, and I know that you gave up a really nice presentation. I was looking at it here. I'm sorry that I didn't reach out to you. I kind of wanted
It's okay.
this to be the public, to be able to see this. I didn't reach out to you or the police chief in regards to the depths of it. I just spoke briefly as to what was happening. I know we emailed me, you, and the police chief a little bit, and the mayor.
Okay. All right, well, if I could just kind of briefly explain what you have in front of you there. It shows our total positions that we were short and kind of a timeline. So you see in July of 2024, when we started, we were down 6 firefighters. And then the number on the right, once we hire a firefighter, they have to go through a process. It takes about 3 months. And once they pass that, they're considered manpower, where they now count as a firefighter and it's no longer causing overtime. So the number on the far right column shows how much we're short manpower, not just positions. So you see in October we hired 2 people, so we were now down 4 positions, but we were still down 6 manpower because they weren't manpower yet. So you kind of follow along. We had some retirements. We did have an OJI. The reason why I listed that one is because it's going to be, we were told 4 to 6 months. I've seen this injury 3 or 4 times, and that's about how long it takes. The doctors are optimistic that they should be back in 4 months, and that's April, which is what I kind of have reflected on here as well. So right now, we are still short 6 positions after all of the hiring we've done, but we're almost to the point you can see in April. I'm anticipating to be down only 3 positions, May 2 positions, and then June we should be at full staffing. And then you're going to see a massive reduction. And now the $300,000 number that we did was a straight projection of what we've been spending. So I would like to think it would be below that. Because you can see it's going to, in April, we'll be down 3 positions. But these positions that we're short are just simply keeping firefighters on the trucks. It's like we really need to have this done. 100%. And it's my responsibility that we came up with a number that was short. I wish we could have got, filled these earlier. The injuries is something that we can't predict. Although when you have, some older people, we're working a lot more overtime, you're going to have more injuries, unfortunately. So I would hope that you guys can take this into consideration that we're almost there. We're so close. If we can keep the staffing on the trucks, that's extremely important to me for the safety of the citizens. And I know this is unfair to lay that on you, but the safety of the firefighters and the citizens is really dependent on keeping all of our trucks up and running. So I really hope that we can come up with something. And I'm not sure any other suggestions that maybe I can meet with the union. And I will show you also on one of the further page, let's see, I have on the next page, there's our shift assignment. And you can see the The reason why I included this was we moved people around to try to keep the shifts short, the shortage is spread out amongst the shifts. So like you can see on C unit, the names in blue are new firefighters. Casca is manpower, he does count, but the other blue name up on top, Bale Jan, is not manpower yet. C unit also has the injured firefighter. So every unit is down 2 firefighters still, but come April, we're going to start seeing improvements, and then it's going to go from there, and you'll see a massive reduction in our overtime for all of next year, and certainly I would hope we would be below the $300,000 we asked for. It's hard to come up with an exact number, but I'm really optimistic that, things are, it's underway, that we're going to have this fixed.
Thank you so much, Chief Rogan. I got a quick question
Sure.
for you. Do you think maybe 150K, if we cut it in half to start off, could be a doable number for you?
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying it's going to get passed, because I don't know where we're going to get the money from.
No, I understand. I was going to even suggest that, and I'm going to sit down with the union, and we're going to rack our brains and try to come up with something too. They take the service to the citizens every bit as seriously as I do. We don't want to be in a position where we have to shut down a truck. We don't have,
No.
we wouldn't have the coverage. We do too many runs per day, and that would be too much. Our mutual aid, people say, well, you can lean on mutual aid. They would not cover, we do 25 runs a day. Take one of the trucks out of there, they're not going to be in our city, 5-6 times a day. That just isn't going to work out.
Absolutely.
So,
Any questions for the chief?
No.
Thank you, chief.
I just want to say something
Sure.
real quick, too. Just so you know, I don't think 150 is going to be enough because they're already 135 over. Just putting that out there.
What do you mean 135 over? They already used 135 over
The budget,
the 714?
yes.
And it's already been used. Okay, how, it wasn't approved by us, how was it used then before?
yeah, it looks like that did go over. So, I didn't realize that how far over it had gotten, and it was, again, the injuries and how short we were, so.
Thank you. Thank you, chief.
Yeah.
I don't put that pressure on you. Look, I'm going to tell you straight up, and not because I always defend our fire and police, but the truth is, if we would have hired more officers 3-4 years ago, you wouldn't be over today.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I'm not going to have you take the blame for it. The truth is, if we were to hire 7 more firefighters, same thing right now, like we say over, we have 41 or 43, we have 40 officers, 3 in the queue. Oh crap. We had 55 and 22. Only thing we budgeted was 45. The reality is we should be at 60 more. We should be at 20 more officers. We should be at 15 more firefighters. That's how you prevent having a shortage and having to, avoid these things on Ash Wednesday on the first day of Lent. That's what you do. Thank you.
Council Chair, the big question here, 135,000 was spent without our approval.
Until you're here at the police department.
How was that spent?
I mean,
Like, who approved that spending?
the employees continue having to work.
No, I understand. They need to work and they needed the overtime, but still they need to go through the process and come in here for approval. Who was supposed to bring it here for approval? That's the big question. I don't know.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you, Chief. Shannon, how over is the police department?
Well, let the police department do its presentation. Let Mr. Chief Hadar is here. And, thank you for your services, Chief Brogan. Thank you for your services, Chief Hadar. Thank you,
Lieutenant?
Gazowski. Thank you. I'm sorry.
So, you guys keep asking if the department heads met up with the mayor. We did meet with the mayor,
Good.
and we did go over some of our budget issues. I'm basically gonna talk about the same thing the fire department's chief came up and talked about. It's, for most of our stuff, it's a manpower issue. So after the meeting, we got together, the department, execs, myself and the lieutenant here, along with the director, and we, kind of went over our overtime, figured out what we could get rid of and what we needed to keep. There wasn't much that we could get rid of, to continue to keep policing the city of Dearborn Heights the proper way. A lot of our overtime is because of manpower, and it's also because of some stuff that's in the officers' contracts that we just can't violate. And if we do violate, we start to get grievances, and morale issues and lawsuits and stuff like that. And that's some of the reasons
I
why
don't
we,
mean to be that guy, but
Yeah.
that never, ever stopped the administration from doing the things that they continue to do. They've been served with so many different grievances, and that does not phase this administration. But continue on.
I just
And maybe
don't
you
think-
don't want to, and I respect you for
Yeah.
not taking on that role.
Yeah.
I commend you for that, but
Yeah.
the truth is, that never stopped the mayor and his staff.
I mean, if we wanted to go down that path, that, not saying you want to do that, not saying I want to do that, then we wouldn't have enough staffing for the police department to continue to serve.
I don't think we have enough staffing currently, sir.
I mean, we have enough to serve, but if we went down that route and we started saying we're not paying overtime and things like that, and, we just wouldn't be able to be out here policing the streets of Dearborn Heights the proper way. Plus there's, correct me wrong, but there's something in their contract that has staffing issues, correct? Like manpower?
Yeah, so we have, on the patrol level, we have a minimum mandatory staffing level, right? So anytime it goes below that, we are, by the contract, we have to call in somebody for overtime or force somebody to stay over. I realize that that's a major budgetary concern, but however, it's also a safety concern, not only for the officers that are on duty, but for the citizens, right? We need at least a certain amount of patrol cars patrolling our city, for whatever run might come out or emergency might happen. So, we certainly understand that the budgetary side of it, but there's also a whole nother side of, safety of our officers and the safety of our citizens. And then just the overall morale, people are more willing to not just be proactive, but maybe, take part in some things if they're not overburdened, overstaffed, forced to work overtime, they're not burnt out, right? So those are the things that we try to
Fix that by hiring more officers, guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, before we get into the hiring process of more officers, I sent you an email, and most of the stuff I put in the email, if you'd like, I could go over it. Most of it's in their contract, that it's required. Like, for example, most of our money comes from leave work overtime. Leave work overtime is when we're short on the streets, and someone's forced to stay. They have to stay and they have to work to continue to have the minimum manpower in the streets. There's also money spent on field training officers, where an officer is the field training officer for a new member that comes into the police department. There's stuff that we just can't prevent, like late police runs. If you get a late police run and have to process that scene or stay over, that's overtime. If we're short on dispatchers, if an officer's filling in a position as a dispatcher, he gets paid extra money than his normal duties, because now he's filling in for a dispatcher, which goes back to manpower.
If we had a dispatch room that was supposed to be done, like we said 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
you know what would happen? Probably have more dispatchers that would want to work for us.
Yeah.
3 years ago, we budgeted for it, and then 2 years ago, we budgeted for it. Last year, we budgeted for it. It's not there.
Yeah.
But can you tell me how much
the
money you guys have already? I know I think yours is 136 for the fire department already? Where are we for right now at the overtime spending, Shannon? Can you tell me that number, Shannon?
64,000.
64 what? That's it?
64,000?
64,000
Over the 874,
Yeah, that's the 136 is over the,
over
Seven,
the
yeah.
714 for the fire
so
department.
that's not too bad. And you're asking for 400,000?
Yeah,
You
yes,
believe that the 400,000 is all you're gonna need from now to June 30th?
yes.
Are you sure it's 64,000, by the way?
Sorry?
You sure it's only 64,000 over? You're good.
So the 64,000, that would be included in the 400,000 they're asking, or this is over the 400,000?
That's included.
Included?
And I think we were budgeted for 874,000.
That's what we did for,
Yeah.
last year's budget.
Now, I mean, when I know you're gonna go back to, like, if we give you this money, how you gonna spend it? Are you gonna go over? I don't think so. We have 42 current members.
41,
The 41?
yeah,
And we have one that's leaving,
yep.
so we're at 41. No.
Why can't we retain this? If we're giving good pay,
Yeah.
we're giving all these benefits, why are they leaving us? Not that, clearly the money's not the issue.
Well, I can tell you that we interviewed 4 people today, and we're interviewing 4 people next Wednesday. So I say by April 1st.
We are following X 78 on this, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Act 78, right, 78. I got a tattoo of Act 78. Yeah, we wouldn't violate Act 78.
We can't, I mean, it's been violated many times.
Well, not here.
Good, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you honor not violating X 78.
So, we have 8 people. We plan on probably bringing some on board by April to bring us up to our 45. And that's the plan. So we believe that by hiring these, whatever numbers we need by April 1st, it's going to reduce probably, I would say, what do you think, 50% of this
Yes,
overtime?
but that being said, along with, just like the fire department, those new members don't count as staffing towards their staffing levels immediately, not until they're done with their field training, right? So, that's a pretty rough estimate, depending on how fast or how quick that goes. I know a lot of the people we're looking at right now are coming from other departments, so we're bringing in a lot of experience, which will be helpful for, I know we have a lot of young people too, so it's gonna be helpful for everybody, I think, with the amount of experience we're trying to bring in here.
Yeah. And they'll be MCO certified, we're not going to send them through the academy. So they'll be boots on the ground quick, which is going to help us with this overtime.
Thank you, chief.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for the chief?
Yeah, so, Chief, you and I had a talk. These new people coming in, we're bringing in, do we have the vehicles for them and?
Yes, yeah.
We
have
do?
the vehicles for them. We have enough to equip them with the equipment that's necessary to go out in the streets, like their uniform, their belt gear and all that. Everything's in place for us to bring them on and give them the proper equipment so they can hit the streets.
So we don't need cars?
We do need cars, but that's something we're working on now that we plan on presenting in the near future coming out of the forfeiture fund. So that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about here.
Any Councilman Saab is asking that because a couple of meetings ago, before you were the chief, acting chief, he asked about, do we need cars? And the former chief said, fully staffed, we don't need any cars.
Our cars are
Now-
perfectly fine.
Now the rumor's starting to come out that we need cars.
Yeah, we need cars. And why we need cars is because obviously we're hiring more people, but there's other units we're going to open up in the near future that's going to require more cars. For example, traffic enforcement, a special ops division. So that's going to require us to have not only more officers, but more vehicles. But we're budgeted for 45 officers. We have enough cars to staff 45 officers. The cars that we have,
That's for a whole different subject right now. I know that main thing is the budget.
Yeah.
Councilman, any other questions?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you so much, chief.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant.
So one more thing I want to add, and I haven't gone to a police department meeting for a long time, but I recall last year in MMRMA, and this continues to be the thread across the country in all police departments. Everyone is facing shortages with police departments. So I know that you keep blaming the city for us not doing certain things, but if you look at the news and if you just Google police shortages, thousands of articles come up from multiple municipalities with regards to shortages with police departments.
I
So
completely agree with you.
just
there's a
want to put that
shortage.
out there.
But what happened in the city was the mayor's rogue
Hey, come on.
vengeance on people to fire people.
And that's
get-
precisely why I'm saying
Come on,
this
guys.
statement,
Yes.
because it is not a unique situation in our community.
It is.
I just want
It
to put
is.
that out there.
Guys, come on, come on.
It is.
Hey, we're not gonna turn this into a debate.
27
Come on,
officers.
let's go. Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. We can have those opinions on Facebook. Let's keep sticking to the business. Same thing for the chief of staff.
And the multiple investigations against
Guys.
officers, don't forget that.
Guys,
Point of
guys,
order,
come on,
Councilman.
come on, guys. Let's, you know what? It's a holiday, religious time right now.
Speak the truth.
I know. And I will agree with the councilman. I've never seen anything happen this drastically this fast. But that's here nor there. Would any other director would like to come up and speak regarding their budget? I'm not gonna ask everybody. Hang on one second. I'd like to hear from the directors, then we'll take it over to you, Madam Treasurer. I know you came in from Illinois. You're spending holidays with your mom. It's your mom's birthday. But I wanna get this rolling. Shannon, I'm gonna go to, before I even go to you too, Lynn, I'm gonna go, or Madam Clerk, I'm gonna go with, John Dancy from DPW. John, I hope now you understand why we kind of get the gist of things.
Yeah,
That's a
no
great
worries, like I
haircut.
said,
That's a great haircut.
from my, thank you. From my, perspective with DPW, I mean, I get a lot of feedback from the employees and haven't been been fairly new to the city. I don't know, I haven't seen anything like this before in my life, but whatever. Rather than trying to reduce what we're paying in overtime, I'm the most disliked guy down there. I just cut it all. So unfortunately, like you said, you got to make tough decisions. We can't buy any more salt. We can't buy any more coal patch. We don't have enough people, but we can't afford to hire people. I don't quite understand it, but I'm just kind of going to ask for none. I know we're over in one specific area. We might be over in overtime. That's because we don't have enough employees, but we pay like 35 grand to start a DPW employee, which if there's no overtime, I don't know who's going to apply. It's not an administration issue. It's just a general city issue. I don't know. It's almost laughable. I talk to other directors at other cities and they say, you pay this much to start and you have this many main breaks and you have 6 people. So I don't know where the best solve is, but when it comes to like budget amendments, I know when I talk to Shannon, how much you need for overtime. And then when I talk to like old data, right, look at old data and talk to some of the employees, they say sometimes the budget is wrong, not our operations. I mean, like when you say, how do you get to that point? The overtime goes because it goes every 2 weeks. You can't just tell people, hey, main break's running by, car accident by. Right? You can't just send these employees off a job site. So like there's no way to bring the budget amendments ahead of time. But I guess in my position, I just cut it all. So there's no reason, whatever was in there for the DPW overtime, if we're over it there, we cut all the spending too. So it's just got to come out the bottom lines at the bottom, right? That's all I'm saying is like I just cut it all. I mean, I don't know where the city's kind of at that point, but when it comes to me and asking for budget amendments for the DPW, there's no reason to say, hey, we need 200,000. Oh, we can give you 100,000. Just make it 0 and then just keep our budget where it's supposed to be. Whether it was something and I just challenge you not to make your guys' job harder in the future by just arguing back and forth. All it does is make everybody's job, if you change positions, harder.
Correct.
You don't want that. Like,
No, we don't.
so if you guys have questions for me, fine, but like that's just kind of where I'm at.
I don't think you need to just completely cut everything off. I know right now
I mean,
we're hemorrhaging. This is, I think, a
solved.
start. But, look, at the end of the day, you're going to have water main breaks. I think it was Mrs. LaPointe reached out to me and she waited almost 24 hours for a water main break.
I know.
I'm glad she got it fixed and resolved, but the truth is, this is happening, so cutting it off is not the solution. And that's not your decision to completely make. There's a man in charge that says that I'm gonna fix our city. Right? Well, your city's not fixed. You're not even at one of the most important meetings ever. You haven't been in a meeting in 6 months. And I'm not trying to make this political. The truth is, God, you can't point your finger and keep saying things are bad, things are bad, things are bad, and not show up to a council meeting or show up to a meeting where we're talking about the budget. Because all I see here is a reflection is the mayor should have been here. It's not fair for the chief of staff to keep taking these punches. Some of these questions, honest to God, I respect Mariana so much for some of the stuff that she has to take. It's not easy. Sometimes it seems like me and Mariana are going at it, but it's not. I think Mariana wants what's best and we want what's best. I think the mayor wants what's best too, but he's not here to tell us that. But I don't think you need to completely cut yourself off. I think the mayor who signed up to be fiscally responsible needs to come up with a solution. Not you. He needs to come up with the solution. That's his job. He's getting paid by taxpayers to say, I'm going to figure it out. That's it. That's not Mariana's job. Mariana's job is to make sure that the day-to-day is operating properly. It's not Mariana's job to figure out how to find the money and do everything. It's also not Shannon's job. Shannon's job is to tell you what's exactly happening inside the department. Her job isn't to sit there and say, well, we need to have a conversation with all the directors. No. That is the mayor's job. The mayor needs to take responsibility. Not come out and make a video and talk about saying, look, for you the people that are running against me. But I don't want to get off on a tangent.
Let's stay on this, the council chair. So director, you're asking for 155,000 for the highway. Is the highway, did it take care of the water main breaks too, or what do they exactly do?
Some of them have been called in to help with main breaks, especially during the winter when we can't get to a main break because we have a crew of 5 and like 60 main breaks a month.
So what's their main job in the highway department?
Salting, plowing, there's been a lot of salting this year. There hasn't been a whole lot of snowstorms, but there's been a lot of salting.
Okay.
Sometimes they get called in to salt 4 main breaks that can't get repaired fast enough. Because you guys have seen some of the contractor invoices I've sent you, and there's more coming. Because there's times where if you got 5 employees, hey, we can't just work them into the ground. So most of that highway overtime is trees when I first got here, which I've kind of cut all that out. I just said, listen, if it's not falling over the road right away, we're just not coming in for it. Salting. And just to prevent some like grievances, I know Mo made a statement that, oh, there's no problem with grievances here. I've had to just basically, in order to
I never
prevent
said
that,
that.
was like, yeah, but in order to prevent that, I just told the contractors, you got to leave too. And then they get mad and they're like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, the union's going to argue that if you cut their overtime, but we have contractors doing what is typically union work, they're going to argue that. But what can you do if you don't have any money? Like you said, there's no way to say, hey, buy a $500 bicycle, here's $100. Right?
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
We bought but you know what's funny? We already bought the $500 bicycle, and all we have is $100.
Do we have the bicycle though?
That highway overtime though is trees, a little bit of coal patching, a lot of snow plowing.
Well, there's no more
salting.
snow, hopefully, we're done. How much money
Yeah.
did we spend from the 155 they're asking for?
So they're already over by 100.
So, wow.
So I don't know that 155.
Are they at 255? Are they at 255 right now?
We're talking about over, they spent already from the 150, they are 200 right now? So they're already, from whatever they're asking, they already spent 100,000, over 100,000, so.
I saw the recommended budget that was initially presented was 200,000. It got cut to 100,000. When you guys approved it, because you needed to balance it, so you say, hey, cut it somewhere. It's easy to just cut it without realizing that, like, that,
The work needs
I
to be
don't-
done.
yeah. So,
By the way,
I mean, it's cut now. I really
by the
did.
way,
I just told them, like, we're working
Just for
none.
full disclosure, we did not cut nothing. That is the mayor's budget. We didn't cut it. The mayor, Mariana, Michelle, the former comptroller, they sat together and they presented us with the budget. That's what happened. We did not cut nothing. The mayor and the staff did. But then he's.
Full city effort, I feel like. Everybody plays their role in it, but.
But you know,
Yeah.
it's like PTSD for us,
Yeah.
because we're always getting blamed. And you go on social
Yeah.
media, everybody says our council shows look like crap, you know, they use, like, oh, but the
Yeah.
reality is we're fighting your money. We're fighting for your tax-paying money. That's all we're trying to do. Here, nobody knew coming into this meeting that I
Yeah.
knew the information of almost $5 million was missing from our fund balance, because we were approving things from a fund balance and they weren't telling
Yeah.
us. Because you know how many times I've approved it where it says GL account 011645, blah, 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 blah. I've never seen one that says from fund balance, like, never. Those are never given to us. It was a bait and switch.
Yeah. Some people could argue too, paying overtime is cheaper than hiring employees. Some people, I've heard that be argued because you don't have that legacy cost. But either way, in my opinion, you can just put in 0 budget amendment overtime for DPW. I mean, we cut it
Well,
all.
that's not a solution, but
Well, you said at the end of the year, if it all bottom lines, then we're good. So,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you so much, John.
you can't be over budget until you get to the end of the budget year, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? I mean, doesn't that make sense too?
Yeah,
Fair enough.
thank you so much, Director. By the way, this man is doing a phenomenal job, like light years ahead.
You know, just a quick note on Director Dancy. He just calls you randomly just to check up, hey, what's going on, you know? Just get the random calls from, and I appreciate those.
I swear this guy is, he's amazing.
You're a good man, Director.
They're just proactive.
But since this is what they have.
Madam Clerk,
Real quick, okay, for ours, for the election one, there's capital outlay, which is at 57,000 because we had the 2 grants that we received. And in that motion, I requested that those GLs be increased in capital outlay, or the revenue come in. And so I guess I don't understand why, if it was asked if it's being presented again. So it's just
You already.
I put it in my motion, you guys approved it, and I requested that the revenues be in place as well as the capital outlay.
And you got that money through the state, right?
One we have in hand, the other one I have to ask for a reimbursement.
Okay. So it's not even technically from the state. I mean, it's not even like, technically, we're not asking for anything for you.
No, it's
This
not,
is
it's
offset
not our
by
money.
an additional revenue, which is also indicated in this document.
So, but my
So there's
question,
no effect on fund balance here.
right.
Okay.
But my question was, if it was in the motion, does it have to be in the budget amendment again?
If it doesn't specifically, if in the
It did.
motion, it doesn't specifically say to amend the budget to this, whatever, then we have to ask for it again. If it does say that.
It
then
does
it's
say
my-
that. It
okay.
said like for the comptroller to do the revenues.
Okay, so
in
then
the
that's my fault for
Okay,
including
and
that.
so that was one question. And then Shannon said that she's going to have to add some more to mine because we did have an insurance claim. So that was a capital outlay that hasn't, so that would have to be a budget amendment.
Right.
And then one more quick one, okay? And the revenues, I didn't know, so the 57,000 is there, and I guess the MMRMA is there too. But we did get reimbursement for the presidential primary, which was 118,000. You know that. And then for early voting, which is, not a lot, but it still is. I don't know where that money goes. So that, I think, it was just a learning experience, I think, for all of us. That's why I wanted to bring it
DPW
up.
for now.
What's that?
Let's put it towards DPW for now.
I mean, was it already in the budget from last year, but it was just this year? So that's a revenue portion.
Yes.
So was it in there? No. Okay, so when is it going to be accounted for? Where did it go?
It's accounted for. We just didn't do an amendment for it. For revenues, if you get extra, then that's just.
So it will go in, and eventually it's going to come back to the general fund anyway, but I want it to be,
It's recorded where it's supposed to be recorded.
okay.
Yeah.
It's,
Can you share that with the treasurer, with the clerk and the treasurer, actually?
but is it
It's in
is?
here.
email I sent you.
When?
So when we talked about the grants,
Okay. For the reimbursement? Okay, I guess I didn't see it, because I see the grants here in the MMRMA, but I've never seen the reimbursement for the 120,000. Okay, so will we see that?
Yep, like I said, it's already
Okay,
in here.
okay.
Thank you.
And one more question, you had asked about the motion for the budget amendments. So on June 25th, there was a motion that came forward for budget amendments. There was no second. Okay, so it wasn't considered. That was prior to the budget approval, though. So I don't know.
No,
Why
we're
there
talking
was no-
about after the budget approval.
I didn't see anything. I went through the end of August, just going through the minutes. The only one was to increase the ordinance for the new ordinance officers. That's all I seen. So I don't know.
I mean, if somebody can look further for, and send us to us, would be great.
Okay, I just,
Mr., go ahead.
I had two items on the budget amendment. One of them was related to PEG funding, asking for some from the PEG funding to be transferred on a line item so that it would be available to spend on that one. So I would ask for that to go through. My other one is for the larger amount, that is to actually pay for our Windstream bill. If you remember, I did come before you, and this is actually coming out of a different funding source, to update our Mitel and all of our phone systems. The Windstream bill and why this was actually being tackled, we had, right now, we have like 50-some analog lines, and Windstream increased our bill, where each analog line was costing us $400 a month. Literally on Friday, we are now able to be able to transfer 41 of those lines to a SIP trunk to UMA, again, which you've already provided the motion, you already approved the motion to move forward. So mine was an unexpected where we budgeted about $6,000 a month for our phone system that we have. That went up to over about $28,000 a month. When that was recognized, that's when I started identifying all the numbers and what we can do to be able to reduce it. But in the meantime, to make sure we had phone system in place, it was an unexpected phone bill increase for that.
Is this coming out of the fund balance, or is it coming?
Right now, it would have to come out of the fund balance because we did not budget. I couldn't have budgeted. When we presented the budget, we were budgeting $6,000 a month for our phones, and that it went up to $28,000 a month. Like I said, literally on Friday, our bill should go down about $17,000 until we can finalize. And a lot of it deals with, just sort of kind of put a little background into it, is because of all the different buildings, Windstream themselves didn't know where all of our phone lines were at. They actually documented them in the wrong locations. So I had identified those phone lines, and especially with the Justice Center, with the, why some of them were analog, I don't know. No one really could understand. We actually had 20 some of these lines that were put in place in 2017 that were never connected for anything. That we were just paying for them since 2017. And I had to take the time to go through and try to identify all these numbers and literally find where these numbers are at. So I just want to make the background why that, why I'm forecasting over budget, and that I try to take pride in my budget and making sure I don't go over. But this was an unexpected increase from Windstream provider, and to be honest, why we're leaving Windstream.
I'm going to tell you, like I said, the same spiel to everybody.
Yep, I understand, sir.
What do we do if we don't have it?
That's why I've been busting my butt trying to get this so we do it. I have not spent in certain categories. I have not spent in certain categories, so that hopefully, as we get a little bit closer towards the end, then I can actually transfer some from some of my other line items onto this line item to kind of help balance out.
We can't transfer that without the approval of the council.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm just waiting a little bit closer to make sure nothing else unexpected comes up. And
See what you can do.
So.
See what you can do. And I'm going to say that to everybody. We all have to figure it out.
I understand. And again, I just want to make sure you understand. This is telecommunications. We don't pay this, okay? It's phones.
It should have came to us before that.
Can we get walkie-talkies instead?
But let's,
That's all the desktop phones and everything.
Shannon, which one that not coming out of the fund balance? So you said,
There's a few that are not.
so which ones?
My PEG, not coming out of fund balance.
Yeah.
Which one is the cable TV, the 10,000?
Correct, sir.
Okay, anything else?
Everything in the treasurer's office is not coming from.
Okay, that's not much either.
all right. Next up, I'm going to let the treasurer go. I'm sorry, I see that you came up real quick. Go ahead, Madam Treasurer. I thank you for coming here and being here with us today. You drove from a far distance.
Good evening, everyone. It's okay, we're elected to do this. This is very important. So I did want to talk about our proposed budget amendments, and as the comptroller already alluded to, in my budget, it's moving money within the budget itself that's already approved for the treasurer's office. So it's not asking for additional money, it's just moving it from one line item to another. In particular, my bottom line will still remain the same or be under. Normally, I'm under in my budget projections and actual spending. So therefore, I am compliant with the State of Michigan Public Act 431 of 1984, and that's all I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you so much.
So that's what
You're
I
awesome,
was sharing.
Treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec Director.
Sorry, I'm coming because he's new and I have a little bit more of the history on this, so I'm supporting.
Correct. So we have three motions here of, I guess, previous purchases that were made during 23, 24 that need to still be approved for payment. The first being some repairs to the Wendell Park Playscape for $17,000. That is going to be paid out of the Parks and Recreation budget. So that is the first one from our previous.
Yeah, so the motion is 24,326. The amount is $17,753.40. This was work that was already done and approved on June 27th. So that's why it was missed in this year's budget, is because I think that it happened right in the transition from one budget to another one, so it wasn't allocated. Like the approval of the purchase happened the last fiscal year, but it wasn't accounted for in the current fiscal year.
Thank you.
The second one is
Purchase
the engineering wood fiber for the Waddell Park as well in the amount of $5,200. Same thing, this happened on June 27th, the same day, and it was just not accounted for the current fiscal year. That's in the amount of $5,200. And then the last one is the motion 24-345, which took place on July 16th. So again, pretty soon after the budget was finalized. And it was in the amount of $63,000 and $75,000 for the Central Park marquee sign. And $44,624 of that is coming from the Wayne County millage money. So it's only the difference that's really going to be coming out of the general fund. So those are the
Those are
three,
coming out of the general fund, it's not coming out of the fund balance?
sorry, only a portion of it is coming out of the fund balance. So the 63 minus the 44,000, whatever that difference is. I'm sorry, I didn't do the math for it, but it's about
Thank you.
$20,000, a little bit less.
Okay, thank you.
I guess while I'm up here, I'm going to speak on the water ones.
Well, hang on, before you do that, I'd like to hear from our new director, who's
Okay.
new director of ordinance for the region. Welcome to the city.
Sorry.
How you doing, Mike?
How you doing? Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
We're just breaking our fast, forgive us.
No problem. I believe we had two line items on for tonight. One is going to be for paying off the escape that was totaled. I think the insurance company sent us $22,000, I believe, and we owe, I think, 11 to Enterprise Leasing. And so the balance of that will go into the general fund, I believe.
Is it the 13,000 or? I don't see.
Where's
it.
it?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, it says it in the
Sorry.
explanation.
So both of these are actually purchases that you guys already approved. One of them was a motion from the prior year related to the animal control outfitting. The purchase was approved, but they didn't actually make the purchase until this year. So basically, that money went back to fund balance last year, and we're just looking to use that again this year. And then the other one is a motion that you guys approved, I think it was at the last meeting.
For the car?
Yeah, to pay off the balance.
So
on-
these two are in one here? The 13,827?
Say that again?
These two numbers are combined in one?
Yes,
Yes.
the outfitting was, I think, around 3,000, and the other one was around 10,000.
And that was for the safety equipment, the lights, and the radio for the dog truck. That was what was left from, I think, the 85,000 that was approved for the dog truck. That was left, so we used that for the radio and the lights. And also, on the payoff of the Escape, I know we asked for another vehicle. I found a used one, so we won't need to get one, and I'll put my vehicle into the fleet, and that'll save the city money, so.
Thank you,
See,
Director.
you're already started, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah, that's- Finally, some good news today. Yeah, please. can you-
Yes, I'm Lee Lefevre. I was a police officer for 27 years in Dearborn Heights. I left here. I did 5 years as a contract employee to the U.S. Marshal Service, protecting federal judges. COVID hit. They laid everyone off. The old director said he needed some help, so I came back part-time. I haven't worked with them for part-time for about 4 years, and then I was moved up to director Monday. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome. Look forward.
You live in Dearborn Heights?
Actually, live in Wyandotte.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you served Dearborn Heights for a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. He actually sent me an email, introduced himself. I look forward to sitting down with you.
Good. And we still got money left in our budget for overtime.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Carrie real quick.
I'll go next. I'll give you some more good news. So for my department, the only thing coming from fund balance is the request for the tuition reimbursement. That's just part of a fringe benefit, contractual benefit. I did not pay myself back for that yet, so just consider me one of the good children, like Lee over there.
No, you deserve to get it paid back.
That's the only one coming from fund balance for my department.
How much is it?
So in the contract, it's for 10, but it won't be that much. I don't even know the exact amount yet, but it'll be less than that.
Thank you. Everybody's favorite, the building department. Carrie.
The building department doesn't have any.
Carrie's not.
Right.
So yeah, you don't.
I don't have any amendments.
I actually have a couple of questions.
Sure.
How much did we budget for, if you don't know, if you remember, on how, I believe it was for our inspection? Can you give me that number, what we budgeted and where we're at?
For which ones? So we separate them out between our
Rentals and regular, right? Give me a vote.
rentals and regulars? Okay. So the rental inspections, for the year, we've budgeted for 450. And then
As
our,
revenue, correct?
correct, revenue. And then our regular ones, we have, 400,000.
So you guys have met that.
Not yet. The regular inspections, we're at 60%. And we are coming into our busier time of the year, so we've already started picking up quite a bit. And then our rental ones, we budgeted 450 and we're at 68. So we're a little low on that, but if we send out letters, we should be able to pick that up.
That's, yeah, we gotta figure that one out. We gotta get the ball rolling, we gotta spin our wheels on that, please.
Right. Right now, our revenue overall is over budget, so we're
Where are we
doing
at?
pretty well. Our overall revenue for the year is budgeted at 2.2. We're at 1.3 right now, roughly 58, 60%.
That is great.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Carrie.
That's some good news. Any other directors? Seeing none, do you have anything? Go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to touch base on two items. One is for major streets. So we're requesting a transfer of $150,000 from major to local. The reason for this is because we actually ended up getting more money in Act 51 that we had anticipated, and we have more need in local roads than we do in major roads at the moment. So every penny that we can put towards our local roads, we are requesting that budget amendment. So that was one of the ones that is number K in the items that are the budget amendments. Then we also have the water and sewer, and a lot of these have already been approved by the CWSRF and DWSRF grants for, projects. So we're just asking to create the general line items and to put budgets in there as we are starting to see expenses in it. I am excited to present to you that we are getting our first large drawdown for DWSRF, so the money should be hitting the bank anytime, but it's $2 million for our water meter project, and that was for the purchase of all the water meters. So the money is starting to come in with regards to the reimbursements for all of these projects. And you will see the grant amendments. I thought it was on a quarterly basis, so I was preparing to present it like in the end of this month, early April. So I know you asked that question in the past. So those are two that are very big budget amendments that, again, it's just a matter of putting it in the budget because they didn't exist before. And then there's also the two FEMA grants that we have been awarded. They were also not, but the two FEMA grants for the home demolitions that we have been awarded and approved by council, but they were also not in the budget. So again, this is just a request to put the money in there with the addition of the 10% match for each one of those. The total, So one of them was 3,534,000. Wait.
3 million.
Sorry. Where is the total for this?
So, yeah, so the 800,000 is, click on this. It's comprised of these four amounts.
But this is just the matching portion.
Right, that's the only expenditure that.
Okay, sorry. Yes, so the only thing we're asking to increase is for the match, and it's 809,555 total. So it's 353,430 for one grant and 92,000 for a second grant and 295,120. Wait, I'm sorry. Your numbers are confusing me. But pretty much it's about 400,000 for one and 350,000 for the second grant, which made up the 809,000. Sorry, she separated it by administrative cost and match, so it confused me. Apologize for that. So those are the home demolition projects. And again, this money's coming out of the water fund, so it does not affect the general fund. So I do hope for approval for all of those, just so that we can start incurring expenses on those grants.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm gonna open it up to the public. We're gonna go to Zoom first. Let's give a second. If there's anybody on Zoom that has any questions, has anything to say, please forward. Seeing none on Zoom, we're gonna move it over to the public. Anyone on the public? Please step up. How you doing, sir? Please state your name, the city you reside in, the street that you live on. You got 3 minutes.
Mike, I live on Arnold Street, Dearborn Heights. First comment I want to make is $100,000 in overtime for highway department and building maintenance. That was sold 2012, and that was not even attainable back then when the budget was being made. I knew that was not going to happen. There's no way that was going to happen. So move on from there. I have talked to a few council members in the past. I worked here through 4 mayors, and the 3 previous mayors up until this administration, before we could even go out for bids, we had to get authorization from city council to go out for bids. We had to say what department it is, whether it was budgeted, what line item it was coming out. That needs to be done so you know these things ahead of time, because you authorized work to be done, and you may not have been told the whole truth where it was coming out fund balance. So you need to pass a resolution to have the department heads come before you to authorize them to go out for bids before they do it. So you can ask all these questions before the work is done, to even write the bid specs, to put them out and do all that work. That needs to be done so that everybody's on the same page and we're not having this conversation. And second of all, I do this at my previous job, and city council don't ask there. We have the budget broken down in the quarters. Every quarter we present where we are at in the budget every quarter to city council. City council needs a request every quarter to have a study session. Where are we on our budgets, so we don't get to this point in having this meeting that we're having now?
Thank you.
There's just things that needs to be cleaned up.
That's a great idea. Thank you so much. How you doing, sir? Please state your name, the city you reside in, the street that you live on. You have 3 minutes.
No, I have to. Good evening, Zohair Abdelhaq, Rosemary. I was happy to hear from the chief of the police that they recognize that Act 78 exists.
I know, finally.
So finally, Mr. Farana, Roger will not say it doesn't exist, and the mayor doesn't say it doesn't exist. So that was good news.
Roger's doing a good job today. Let's leave Roger alone today.
You have to go there, right? It's not approved in the city legally.
Okay.
But it exists somewhere.
Sometimes the facts override the law. You cannot live with a woman in the state of Michigan is not married to her. It's penalized. It's a felony. But since it is happening everywhere, the law is no more followed. So sometimes that happens.
Visual rape laws still.
The payroll. You need to know the overtime. What's the effect of the overtime on the payroll, on the pension? And since there are contracts and obligations, especially the police and fire, they pick up, I believe, the highest years, the highest pay of the last 3 years or 5 years. So that will affect their pension, that will affect their benefit. You should pay attention to that. During Mr. Paletko, God rest him in peace, invoices that used to come to the city council, it says what line item it is, what number, what account, how much they are asking to approve, and how much is left in that account, which I don't see anymore in this administration, which means the city council doesn't know if you are overspending on some line items or not. So that should be reviewed and should be enforced, that every invoice comes in front of you, you know the amount spent and the amount left in that, in that line item. The mayor supposedly by charter should submit to the city council a financial report every month on what is the situation of the city financially. He hasn't done it since he took office. That is a violation of the charter, and I think you should call him on it, and he should submit to you a report monthly so you know where you're at. And other than that, I wish you good luck. Thank you for what you're doing.
Anyone else in the audience? Anyone on Zoom? Before I go to announcements, I'm gonna ask the residents. Okay? You'll be our final straw.
So I just want to address the information aspect of all of this. I send a budget to actual report to all the directors and every member of council every month, which contains all of this information that like we're presenting to you. So everyone has this information available to them. Granted, I definitely should have come to you guys sooner than I did with these amendments, but the fact that like some departments are over and under budget, like that information has been given to everyone every month.
You know, you have to keep in mind a couple of things here, Shannon. First and foremost.
I'm Michelle.
I had to think about that, Shannon. You have to keep in mind. You do. You email it to me.
Yes.
You know, my first year or two when I used to read them, I would look at them and I didn't understand what I was reading at first. I used to have to go to Dave Abdullah and Ray Muscat.
Come see me. I'll show you how to read them.
And what I'm saying is, we need to, as a city, and I'm not saying like you're doing it intentionally, but we have to, you know, give a breakdown. You know, I see when you put them in red, and when you start showing us where we're over or we're out, or you know, and I'm reading this when you send us through this Excel, right? But you can give us a quick synopsis and a breakdown. Hey guys, just want you to know we're over on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead of us going through page by page by page, because it's long. It's hundreds of pages that we're going through, on top of everything else that we're also doing. Council is part-time, right?
Yeah.
You can also give us a breakdown and a quick synopsis in an email. This is what we're going through. This is what's happening to the fund balance. This is what's happening to the general fund. You know, I'm still working to get, the right information with redacted on the private information to the treasurer to know how much does one individual got in overtime, and what they're making hourly, and make sure that their salaries are being followed through, because through just in my heart believing that there was something wrong with bonuses, it came to light. Like, we have to, trust issue is there, right? There's a trust issue, and I don't call it a cultural change. I call it a trust issue. Like right now, the fact that we just spent money from fund balance, nobody told us about. Never told, and you agreed. You said, oh, you guys should have known, but you also didn't tell us. You're just at fault as anybody else in this. You should have said, guys, this is coming out of fund balance, and you know who used to do it?
So everything that is being requested to come from fund balance either hasn't been paid yet or has been approved by council. Anything that comes through me for approval for payment that's over budget, I reject it and send it back to the director.
Good job. Thank you so much. She's tough. You know who used to do that? David Saputo. David Saputo used to sit here. Maybe I didn't get along with him as much because of his demeanor, but he told us this. I turned over and I looked at the mayor when he used to attend, and I said, what are we going to do about this? He said, we're going to figure it out. Then we got ARPA money. And everybody said again, happy spending. That's become our issue. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Everybody go home and break your fast.